our speaker will be speaking about this and giving us his insight, Mr. Erik Wiese. All right, gentlemen, all right.
I was recently told a story by my wife. We were at GTM, and we go to GTM in order to buy stuff that is discontinued at Costco or returned to Costco. So you can get at GTM stuff about 10% cheaper than even going to Costco. And we were going through and putting different items in our basket, and my wife likes to shop, even though she can afford to go to Nordstrom's if she wanted to. She thinks that spending our money wisely is a good thing. So she goes to the cheapest place in town to buy as much value as possible. And she was accosted by somebody at GTM, not once, but on several different occasions. She's had people come up to her and say, "Did you leave anything for anyone else?" Now, these are people, I think, who don't understand the way the economy works. You see, we keep GTM in business. People like me, people like them. Everyone who goes there and buys stuff keeps GTM in business. And that is a self-sustaining proposition. See, before Obama came into office, people thought profit was a good thing. And profit is a good thing because it is self-sustaining. When a business makes a profit, they can afford to stay in business. They can afford to employ people. They can afford to give them promotions. They can afford to hire new people. They may even, like Mr. Roselle does, go and buy a second shop somewhere because he's managing it better than the last managers, or they retired, or they just weren't, quite doing what they needed to do in terms of fixing people's cars. That's what capitalism is about. Donald Trump knows what capitalism is about. And like us, he has been accosted. He has been criticized for owning too much, or for having too fancy of a watch, or for building towers that are too fancy or too good, or for being a bully. And I can't just let it go anymore. I have to talk about it. So in today's newspaper, I read a guy that I normally enjoy reading, Michael Gerson. He's more of a moderate Republican. He's normally talking about economic issues and not getting very political. But as of now, he's decided to come out with a trashing Trump piece. So I'm going to point out some of what he's talked about and give you what I think is the answer to some of his attacks. So he has called Donald Trump a bully. Now, why is Donald Trump a bully if he is in fact upset at how soft the country has become? If he's upset at how feeble our foreign policy has been? The Iran appeasement treaty is a perfect example of us giving away the store to a bunch of people who hate us, who still go out every single week and say, "Death to America! Death to Israel!" We're giving them $150 billion. And right now we have John Kerry running around to the Europeans saying, it's okay if you lend money to them. I know that some of our banking rules made by those evil Republicans in office say you're not supposed to do loans to these guys, but we're going to ignore those regulations because our imperial presidency wants to give more to the Iranians. And so Donald Trump says, that's wrong. We shouldn't be disregarding what the Republicans have put into policies and to try and protect our nation. Does that make him a bully? Well, maybe he's accused of being a bully for what he said to Carla Fiorini. And he called her, I can't believe that woman is even running, seeing how ugly her face is. Something to that effect. Now that is a perfect example of misogyny and bullying. And I'm not going to defend that in any way because I want to go home tonight and have my wife treat me nice, and I'm recording it, and she might find out. But I will tell you that she could have responded differently. She could have stood up to that bullying and made some points for herself. When you are in a big league, you're expected to take hard shots and return them. She could have said, you know what? If Donald Trump spent half as much time exercising as he does fancying and feathering that pretty hair of his, he'd have a waistline as slim and trim as mine. He could have said that. She would have gotten a laugh, and life would have gone on. And the joke would have been on Donald Trump. But she didn't. And there's a lot of opportunities for people to stand up to bullies in public, and if they miss the opportunity, it's their own fault, not his. Let's go to the next thing that he was attacking Donald Trump for. They attacked Donald Trump for being non-religious because in American history, inspiring leadership has often been informed by religion, which at its best universalizes our empathy. Now this is hilarious to me. This is like the kettle calling the teacup. What is that? What is it when you call it when you're guilty of the same things you accuse? Just total. Yes, the pot calling the kettle black. The Democrats are for homosexual marriage. The Democrats are for abortion. The Democrats are for getting religion out of our public schools, even on a voluntary basis. And then they turn around and criticize us as being non-religious. Enough said. He's standing up for religion, even if he doesn't go to church every week. And I prefer he does go to church every week, because that's where I am. Non-empathy. We have a welfare state in this country where the top 40% of earners are subsidizing the bottom 60%. The top 40 have progressive tax rates. The top 40% are paying property taxes that are enormous. And those property taxes go to pay for public education, they go to pay for fire, they go to pay for police. A lot of people in the bottom 60% of wage earners are not paying their fair share. They're not. And the top 40% are subsidizing that. And instead of thanking us, the bottom 60% are saying, you need to do more. You need to give us more. You guys are non-empathetic. No, we have a welfare state, and it's getting out of control. In fact, some of the people on the Democratic side want to increase the redistribution to 90%, to increase the top tax rate to 90%. That's pure out stealing. There's no other way to call it. Stealing from the hardworking and productive and giving to the welfare queens and the addicts and the lazy. I don't know how else to say it, but maybe you want to call me a bully. Maybe that's my role in life. I'm a bully because I'm pointing out that I want to keep my money instead of giving it to everybody else because they're bigger victims. We're tired of a society where the biggest victim gets to steal from those who are actually working hard and slaving away at trying to provide for their future. If that makes us a bully, call us a bully. We're going to outvote you. Here's another thing. Undocumented workers and Muslims. He says that because Donald Trump has said that they shouldn't be allowed in this country, that he's picking on these poor undocumented workers. Well, first of all, they're illegal. They did break our laws coming in. We do have over 1,250,000 slots available for legal immigration. It's bigger than any other country. And of those slots, only 125,000 of them are designated for high productive, high intelligence, high skilled workers. Over 1 million of those slots are just for people who happen to know people in America who are relatives of them. Is that really good for our country? Shouldn't it be reversed? Shouldn't we have 1 million high productive, intelligent, strongly skilled people coming into this country who are immediately going to get jobs and pay taxes rather than going on welfare? If you look at it, 74% of our immigrants are going on welfare. Well, it's 65% legal, 75% illegal immigrants immediately go on welfare. And our government actually takes tax money to teach these people how to get more welfare benefits. There's actually liberal organizations that take government grant money. There's some over here in El Cajon, and teach these people not how to get a job, not how to speak English, not how to put together a resume, not how to show up to work on time, not even how to crap in the bathroom correctly. They actually see these little holes that are down there in the floor, and I've actually heard anecdotal evidence that people go into the bathrooms and they can't figure out the toilets and crap in the middle of the floor next to the drain. That's what America has become. Now, I would like to see these people trained on how to get a job, but I'd like them to be legal also. Because if they're legal and they go through the proper channels, we're probably going to take people who want to work hard for a living. And is Donald Trump a bully for pointing that out? Or a realist? I think he's a realist. What else has he been criticized? Oh, he's been criticized for trying to limit press freedom. Now, here's an example. Mitt Romney came out recently and he criticized Donald Trump. I was not a Trump supporter until my hero, Mitt Romney, decided to attack a fellow Republican. And I was so incensed because I actually read the entire thing that Mitt Romney said. And Mitt Romney spent 2/3 of his time attacking Trump, 1/3 of his time attacking Hillary Clinton and saying, this person, Hillary Clinton, is so bad, we need anyone to defeat him, but preferably somebody who's more conservative than Donald Trump. And was any of the criticism that he leveled at Hillary repeated? None. Zero. All we heard about and all the media celebrated was fellow Republicans in a bloodbath, slicing each other's throats. That's the media for you. So if Donald Trump is not a fan of the media, it's because he has personal experience of what the media has been doing to him. If you just look at what's in the newspaper, you think Donald Trump is evil. If you actually go online and you see some of what he actually says and spend 30 minutes reviewing on YouTube some of what he says in front of thousands and thousands of people who show up, it's all very reasonable stuff. Now, every now and then he'll throw a little hyperbole in, and the media loves hyperbole because they can always paint somebody as an extremist when they take something out of context. But he's a negotiator. He's going to make extreme comments just to throw the other people off of their game so that he can get as much as he can. Like when he came out recently and said about NATO, it's time that NATO started paying their fair share or we don't have to be part of NATO. Now, do you think all of those governments that have been skirting on their 2% contribution that they're legally obligated to make towards NATO each year started shaking in their boots a little bit? Because they've only been paying 1% or 1.5%. The only person or country that's even close to paying what they have promised to pay, well, there's two of them. Poland, because they're the first that are going to get invaded by the Russians, so they take their defense seriously. And our best ally, Great Britain. Everybody else is at half, or 2/3, or 1/3 of what they should be contributing as part of what they have promised to pay in NATO. So if he points that out, does that make him a bully, or does that make him a good negotiator? He can come in and say, we're not going to make our 2% contribution. We're not going to have our troops in Germany or in Poland or as a trip line unless you guys start contributing your fair share. And then even worse, the people who do contribute their fair share have rules of engagement that prevent any casualties. They live in democracies where ruling force to protect themselves is no longer politically popular. America has become the mercenaries of the world. We're the only ones who know how to go out and fight and kill people and not feel guilty about it afterwards. Everyone else sits around beating their chest saying, oh, woe is us, woe is us. They're going to end up slaves someday if they don't learn how to fight for themselves. So is Trump going to let that happen? No, he isn't. He's not going to. And if that's what you call bullying, standing up for yourself and not being pushed around, well, then all of us should be bullies. All of us should be standing up for ourselves. All of us should stop being victims. We should stop being told that we're wrong because we want to win for a change, that we don't like losing, that we're not willing to just get shafted and take it again and again and again. And we have. We've been losing. We've been losing right and left. And you know what? Trump doesn't want to stand for it. What else is it being accused of? Dangerous vaccine skepticism. You know what? That's ridiculous. You get a vaccine, you're not going to get all of these sicknesses that people are talking about. Everyone should get vaccinated. And he did come out and say something ridiculous about that. And he should be criticized for that. It's one of a lot of different things that people say when they're on the stump to try and win votes. And if we counted every single thing Hillary Clinton said in order to try and win votes, like she doesn't like NAFTA, even though she voted and negotiated the entire treaty, and now to win votes from Democrats, she says she's against it. She's also against the Keystone Pipeline, which is because union people drive trucks that deliver all that oil so that she can maintain the jobs for her union cohorts as long as she doesn't put that pipeline into effect and maybe get some green votes. But is that good for the country? No. These people say a lot of stuff, and they should have their feet held to the fire when they say something wrong. He's also come out and said that he is against Chinese currency manipulation. No government can withstand market forces. The Chinese will go in and try and manipulate their currency, and it'll work for short periods of time, but it can't work forever. The market is going to assert what the market's going to say. If the Chinese are corrupt, they're not making what they want to make, their currency is going to fall. If their currency falls, it's going to be cheaper to make stuff in China. It came out recently that one of Donald Trump's ties that actually Vincent Fox was wearing, the president of, is it Vincent Fox? Is he the president of Mexico? Vicente Fox. Former. So he pulled his tie out and said, I'm wearing a Trump tie today. Made in China. All right? Trump is wrong in trying to put up protectionism in America. I think he's doing that to win some votes from the Perot supporters. Perot is for putting up those types of barriers also. That being said, the Chinese do not honor our patents. We go to China and we try and put in a factory there, they're going to rip us off the same way the Japanese did. You know how we know the Japanese ripped us off? Because we made those electronic pieces of equipment that go transistors transistors that go into computers. And the people who made them, I think it was Hewlett-Packard or Texas Instrument, made a mistake. What was really interesting is when you make this super complicated transistor and you make a mistake, it's sometimes cheaper to just do something around it rather than fix it. These same transistors showed up under a Sony or Samsung label in Japan 5 years later. Because the whole thing, mistakes included, they didn't even know that it was a mistake, they just copied everything and reverse engineered it. That's what a lot of these countries do. They do not respect our patents. They don't let us own parts of their country. You go down and you try and buy a place in Aruba, you're not allowed to own land because everyone would come and buy it out from underneath the natives. You actually have to be born there in order to own there. If you try and go down to Mexico, you can't own a corporation in Mexico without partnering with a local company in order to own that stuff. That's not fair. We don't do that in America. So there are ways that we can try and negotiate better deals with these countries, not by imposing tariffs, but by threatening to impose tariffs. That's good negotiating. What else? Oh, he accused Ted Cruz's father was somehow involved with Lee Harvey freaking Oswald. Now, I did not add the freaking. That was actually written in here. This guy is accusing Donald Trump of vulgarity, and he's putting the word freaking right here on my newspaper and offending me. I don't know if I can stand it, but I am thick-skinned enough not to go and cry in my milk. I just thought it was funny. And did you see how Ted Cruz reacted to it? He blew up. He utterly blew up. And then later he had to concede that a couple hours later, he conceded the race and said he was getting out and folding and allowing Donald Trump to be the presumptive nominee. The bullying worked. If we don't want bullies in America, we have to stand up to them. I personally like Donald Trump. I think he's got the best chance of beating Hillary. I don't always approve of all of his methods, but look, his methods are working. And he's borrowed most of those methods from the Democratic playbook. Mr. Toastmaster.